NIMP 2030 to transform Malaysia into high-tech industrialized nation. Malaysia is seen benefiting as investors shift risk from China. Good evening and Salam Malaysia Madani. You're watching Malaysia Tonight with me, Muhammad Amin Carlos. Well, Judge Sri Anwar Ibrahim today delivered his maiden National Day address as the Prime Minister, underscoring most of all the importance of unity in safeguarding the country's independence on the road to transforming Malaysia into a great nation. Well, he said this can be achieved as Malaysia has an abundant workforce that can be transformed into technology experts and professionals for the country to compete with any other in the world.
Di antara cita-cita dan harapan kita, negara ini harus bersatu, negara ini harus merangka ekonomi madani yang mampan, dan negara ini harus menjamin keselesaan dan keadilan bagi semua rakyat. Negara yang pelbagai kaum, pelbagai agama tidak mudah diurus. Setiap hal akan menimbulkan kesangsian dan sensitiviti. Mari kita manfaatkan waktu yang ada dan sisa-sisa hidup kita ini untuk berbuat bakti kepada diri, keluarga, masyarakat dan negara kita. Dan yakinlah negara ini bukan biasa. Negara ini punya hasil mahsul yang hebat, melimpah ranah.
Reminding Malaysians of the importance of independence that the country has enjoyed for the past 6 decades. He also said that the challenge faced today is for the people to unite and preserve peace and independence.
On another matter, the Prime Minister said the soon-to-be-launched New Industrial Master Plan 2030, or NIMP 2030, will transform Malaysia into a high-tech, industrialized nation. Well, Dato' Sri Anwar Ibrahim, who is also Finance Minister, said NIMP 2030, which is scheduled to be launched on 1st September, is no ordinary industrial plan.
Tetapi melakukan anjakan supaya tidak memutuskan ke arah sektor, tetapi ke arah matlamat dan mission, menjadikan Malaysia negara industri dengan teknologi tinggi, dengan transformasi digital, dan memberi ruang bagi ratusan ribu anak-anak muda dalam bidang pekerjaan baru.
He said industrial digital transformation will not only restore Malaysia as a preferred investment destination, but also boost the nation's capabilities. He also said that the country has again attracted the interests of large companies, including Tesla Incorporated from the United States, Geely from China, and Infineon Technologies from Germany, which have decided to make Malaysia an important investment hub.
Well, Malaysia will not recognize China's demand in the South China Sea as demarcated in the 2023 China Standard Map, which covers the Malaysian maritime areas. Now, the Foreign Ministry in a statement today said China's map was no way binding on Malaysia. It said Malaysia also feels that the issue of the South China Sea is complex and sensitive. And now the ministry added that this issue needs to be handled peacefully and rationally through dialogues and discussions based on international laws, including the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea 1982. Malaysia will continue with the diplomatic approach in its engagements with other states, including China, in the common efforts to maintain the South China Sea as a sea of peace, stability and trade. It said this was in line with the provisions of the Declaration on the Conduct of Parties in the South China Sea, or DOC, among others, dispute resolution by peaceful means and avoidance of the threat or use of force. Gabon officers say election results cancelled, regime ended. That and more coming up. Well, former Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan remained in prison despite his graft conviction being suspended and claiming that a manipulation of justice was keeping him behind bars. Now, Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf or PTI party said the Islamabad High Court overturned a lower court's decision to jail him for 3 years, a judgment that kept him from contesting upcoming elections. His lawyers said he was granted bail and they were initially hopeful he would be released from Attock jail, a century-old prison around 60 kilometers west of Islamabad, where the 70-year-old has been held for 3 weeks. However, they said on Tuesday afternoon Khan remained in detention because of a previous arrest made in secret over a case alleging he was, or rather had, leaked classified state documents. Now, one of his lawyers, Muhammad Shoaib Shaheen, told reporters outside the prison, which was surrounded by patrolling police units, that Khan was on judicial remand and would appear before a special court in Islamabad on Wednesday. Muhammad added his legal team was intentionally left uninformed and kept in the dark. Well, a group of Gabonese military officers appeared on television announcing they were putting an end to the current regime and cancelling an election that, according to official results, President Ali Bongo Ondimba won. Now, while announcing the cancellation of the vote results, one of the officers said all the institutions of the republic had been dissolved. Now, the address was read by an officer flanked by a group of a dozen army colonels, members of the elite Republican Guard, regular soldiers, and others. It came moments after the National Election Authority said Ali Bongo Ondimba had won a third term in Saturday's election with 64.27% of the vote. Now, Bongo has been in power for 14 years in the oil-rich West African country. The officer said the recent election did not meet the conditions for a transparent, credible, and inclusive ballot so much hoped for by the people of Gabon. Now, he was speaking on behalf of the Committee for the Transition and Restoration of Institutions. Well, demonstrators gathered outside of the Google Cloud Next conference in San Francisco, California on Tuesday to protest against the technology company's contract with the Israeli government to provide cloud services for the country's public sector and military. Now, the protesters are part of the No Tech for Apartheid campaign, a coalition of current and former Google workers, as well as community members and other activists. About 100 people attended the protests. Now, Project Nimbus is a multi-year project signed in May 2021 intended to provide a comprehensive solution for the provision of cloud services to the government, the defense system, and other groups in the economy. The 4 phases of the project include acquisition and construction of cloud infrastructure, formulating government policy for migrating to the cloud, integration and migration, and control and optimization of cloud activity. Protesters said the cloud technology developed by Google was being used against Palestinians, including for surveillance and racial segregation. Now, Google did not respond to a request for comment. Coming up in our business segment, manufacturing industry sees lower capacity utilization in second quarter. Malaysia, Indonesia and Thailand are likely to attract foreign investments as companies look to deconcentrate risk away from China. Now, Moody's Analytics said as global demand shifts away from China toward North America, the rest of Asia seeks new investments. Well, according to Moody's, the Asia-Pacific or APAC economy is also slowing under the weight of weak global trade, the uncertainty of China's economic recovery from the pandemic, high interest rates, and some tightening of fiscal policy. Moody's said one of the key factors allowing the APAC economy to expand in declining inflation, which has been ongoing since late last year. The research house highlighted that one factor that would support the APAC region would be a more rapid return of high-spending tourists from China, of which so far the return, quote-unquote, has been incomplete. It also noted that among the top 5 of the Southeast Asian nation economies, none have seen tourist arrivals return to pre-pandemic levels of late 2019. Nevertheless, some improvements is expected over the coming year as China has just recently allowed group travel arrangements for overseas travel to all of Asia, but it remains to be seen if the desire to travel and spend overseas returns to Chinese consumers. Well, Bank Negara Malaysia, or BNM, said the country's international reserve assets amounted to $112.94 billion as at end July 2023, while other foreign currency assets stood at $1.7 million. Now, the central bank, through a statement released today, said in accordance with International Monetary Fund's or IMF's Special Data Dissemination Standard or SDDS format, the detailed breakdown of international reserves provides forward-looking information on the size, composition, and usability of reserves and other foreign currency assets. It also provides guidance on expected and potential future inflows and outflows of foreign exchange of the federal government and BNM over the next 12-month period. BNM said in line with the practice adopted since April 2006, the data excludes projected foreign currency inflows arising from interest income and the drawdown of project loans. It said that the projected foreign currency inflows amounted to $2.37 billion in the next 12 months, adding that the only contingent short-term net drain on the foreign currency assets is government guarantees of foreign currency debt due within 1 year, amounting to $369.5 million. The Department of Statistics Malaysia, or DOSM, said the manufacturing industry operated at a lower capacity utilization of 78.2%, or rather, in that quarter of the second of 2023 or 2Q 2023 versus 79.0% in the same period last year. Now, in a statement today, Chief Statistician Dato Sri Muhammad Uzair Mahidin said the decline was due to the decreases recorded in almost all subsectors except for the manufacture of other non-metallic mineral products as well as basic metals and fabricated metal products. Nonetheless, it said 6 states' manufacturing capacity utilization had surpassed the national rate of 78.2% in 2Q 2023. They are Terengganu, Selangor, Melaka, Johor, Kedah, and Negeri Sembilan, while other states recorded lower capacity rates than the national average, with Perlis continuing to record the lowest at 62.3%. On a quarterly basis, Dato Sri Muhammad Uzair said the capacity utilization of the manufacturing industry in 2Q 2023 contracted 1.6 percentage points, contributed by several factors, particularly low demand, insufficient supply of materials, repair and maintenance of machinery and equipment. He added that the downturn in 2Q 2023 was reflected by the production of manufacturing output, indicated by the marginal growth of 0.1% in the Industrial Production Index, compared to 3.4% in 1Q 2023. Well, Malayan Banking Berhad or Maybank's net profit for the first half of the year ended 30th June this year, or 1H 2023, rose 26% to 4.6 billion ringgit from 3.67 billion ringgit in the same period last year. So revenue increased to 31.32 billion ringgit from 21.36 billion ringgit previously. Now, as for the second quarter of 2023 or 2Q 2023, its net profit rose 45.4% to 2.34 billion ringgit from 1.61 billion ringgit in the same quarter last year, while revenue advanced to 16.13 billion ringgit from 10.21 billion ringgit previously. Well, in a statement today, Maybank said its net operating income for the next 6 months this year rose by 8.6% year-on-year, or YOY, to 13.63 billion ringgit, led by a 61% boost in non-interest income to 4.01 billion ringgit. This, however, was offset by a lower net fund-based income, which declined 4.4% YOY to 9.62 billion ringgit, as net interest margin, or NIM, compressed due to higher funding costs led by interest rate hikes in the past year and deposit pressure. Commenting on the results, Chairman Tan Sri Zairani Muhammad Isa said that the promising first half performance continues to validate Maybank's strong franchise and the M25 Plus strategy the bank has adopted despite the global challenges. Well, U.S. Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo said today that more communication was needed between China and the U.S. and that the two countries have agreed to begin a commercial issues working group to meet several times a year.
Making the remarks at an American Chamber of Commerce AmCham conference in Shanghai, Raimondo added that the U.S. and China have a quote-unquote massive and consequential economic relationship.
The U.S. and China have a massive and consequential economic relationship, which is good for the world. It is good for China. It is good for America. And we want you here investing, growing.
Raimondo.
And now we move on to the next segment of our bulletin, On the Table. It's over to you, Renee.
Thank you so much, Carlos, for bringing us the latest update on Malaysia tonight. Good evening and Salam Malaysia Madani. Tonight we have a very special guest in conjunction with the National Day celebrations tomorrow. An Army veteran who has an enormous experience while serving the country, which also includes serving as a United Nations military observer in East Timor under UNAMED during the country's popular consultation way back from July 1999 to June 2000. He was also seconded to the National Defence University Malaysia as a senior lecturer and subsequently promoted to associate professor. Lieutenant Colonel Ajaya Kumar is here with us in the studio to share with us his views of independence and its significance. Welcome, Colonel.
Thank you, Rin.
So please do share with us, what does independence mean to you?
Thank you, Renee. It's certainly an honor and a pleasure to be here tonight. Though the question seems very simple and straightforward, but it is not really that simple an answer. However, independence is something every nation which is colonized would look forward to, because simply, first and foremost, it gives you freedom. Okay, the freedom to choose one's path as to where one would like to head to, what areas of achievements and to be excelled in, and so forth. The next thing I would think what independence really means is it gives you the opportunity to develop in one's own potential and capabilities. Rather than be dictated by a foreign factor that tells you what you can grow or what you can manufacture and how it is to be done and so on and so forth. It means being able to access and utilize the resources, infrastructure, and human capital that are available within the nation, as well as to seek and receive support. Most importantly, I would think what independence means would be a sovereignty. The sovereignty of a nation state, its own sovereign, where no other authority or force or entity can actually tell us what we should do, what we can do, or what we cannot do. I think this is very important to be in an independent nation. We would not want to toe someone else's thoughts or will and what have you. We would like to do whatever it is that we want to do in our own mold, in our own way, based on the ambitions that our leadership and the people has envisioned, so to speak. Of course, the next thing would probably be identity. Independence gives you the opportunity to identify ourselves with the nation, perhaps, with a flag, with a name, and a lot of many things. Let me just emphasize here, for example, the glorious stripes or the Jalo Gemilang, for example. I believe that most of you who have probably traveled overseas have had the opportunity perhaps to see the Malaysian flag, the Jalo Gemilang, flying, and immediately it brings you back home. You know, the memories, the feeling, the emotion, the smell of nasi lemak maybe, you know, and or what have you kind of thing. And therefore, that is a form of identity. Another example I'd like to throw in here is some colleagues and I had the opportunity to attend a conference in Myanmar, a Nadi Track 2 conference. And late that evening, we decided to go out to the nearby restaurant for dinner. We went to the restaurant. There were three of us actually, my colleagues, the late Colonel Ahmad Ghazali, Professor Dr. Teh Yukun, and myself. We went in, got a table, sat down for dinner, and just beside our table was, I believe, a Japanese tourist, which we found out later. And he kept looking at us, you know, the three of us, and he was having his meal and all that. And finally, we decided to say hello, you know, and introduce ourselves and all that. And I am baffled by the fact that the question he asked us, actually, he said, "Are you by any chance from Malaysia?" And we were quite surprised, actually. And he said, "Oh, yes, we are, you know, and why did you ask such a question?" He says, "Well, you know, the fact that there's a Malay, there's a Chinese, and an Indian, and Malaysia is a multicultural country, you know, and even now I get goose pimples, you know. But I think these are things that we tend to identify with our nation, an independent nation, so to speak, really." Just one little thing I would like to add here is, again, I'm not going to give any historical lessons here, but as you may have learned through history lessons and what have you, we did not go through great battles or bloodshed in order to gain our independence. We got our independence through negotiations, diplomatic channels, and in a way, a peaceful manner. I've had the opportunity, however, to be a military liaison officer and subsequently a UN military observer under the flag of the United Nations in East Timor called UNAMED. Sadly, though, what we were supposed to do was carry out a popular consultation to find out if the East Timorese people accepts autonomy, which was being offered by the Indonesian government, or reject the autonomy. However, there was another offer in the platter, that is, in the event that they rejected autonomy, they will be given independence. And that actually opened the floodgates, because during the invasion or when East Timor was made into the 27th province of Indonesia, many East Timorese actually fled to the mountains because they didn't want to be part and parcel of the Indonesian government and so on and so forth. I was surprised at their willingness, despite there was a lot of attacks, even murders, massacres by the local militia against them, their willingness to come down and vote for the ballot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I completely agree with you, Colonel. Being a Malaysian, I think the beauty and uniqueness of being a Malaysian is, as you said, nation identification, having that unique identity from all these melting pots of races, food, cultures, and I think that's very beautiful. And that takes us to my next question. What values do you think does the independence of a nation impose on an individual or the community?
Again, a good question, Renee. I would like to answer it in the sense that values can be dependent on historical background of an individual, the political, economic, and social context as well. But basically, I suppose we can actually sum it up to first, self-determination. All right, the fact that independence can impose the value of self-determination, the right and the ability of people to choose the path that they want to follow. Who do they want, or which party they want to be in place, and what exactly are their requirements, demands, and ambitions on the other aspects. Now, the other thing would be probably government. The ability to choose what kind of a government, which political party that you wish to put into place, and is another great aspect of being an independent nation. This is where you are not like forced into something. You are not forced to pick or select an entity or a cause that you're the least interested in, you know. Human rights, independence gives you the ability to actually fight for your human rights as an individual in whatever aspect, whatever color, whatever creed, whatever religion that you may be, you see. And that is, I believe, is a very important aspect in a country like Malaysia, with an identity of being multiracial and multi-religious in nature. Again, I'd like to go back to sovereignty. A lot of us sometimes take sovereignty for granted. They may even forget that it is something that we need to guard, we need to respect, we need to uphold in order to always enjoy the fruits of being part of a sovereign state.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think to conclude that is to, you know, the meaning of independence is really, as you said, having freedom, Colonel, having freedom to choose who you wish to follow, to choose your government. And I think that is most valuable in any independent nation. Now, moving on to our next question, Colonel. Now, as you mentioned earlier that you were serving in the East Timor under UNAMED, yeah? So, as the military observer during the East Timor under UNAMED, can you tell us a little bit more on that? Because you mentioned that our independence was not through bloodshed, was not through a fight, and it's very interesting to know what had happened in East Timor, and you come from a country that gained independence through peace and diplomatic agreement and mutual agreement.
Yeah. Thanks, Renee, for that question. East Timor was a very a peculiar kind of mission in the sense that we went in under UNAMED to actually observe and help the United Nations civilian staff to actually carry out the popular consultation, that is to register the population and invite them to cast their ballots on the particular day, and finally to announce what was the outcome. As you may or may not know, the outcome was not readily accepted by the pro-Indonesian group, and therefore bloodshed and fight and killing took place, including massacres and what have you. That's when we changed from becoming military liaison officers to military observers.
Okay.
And we continued to observe and report.
Okay. Now, there you have it. And with that, we have come to the end of tonight's edition of Malaysia Tonight. Along with Muhammad Amin Carlos, our special guest of the evening, Colonel Ajaya Kumar, and RTM's English News Desk, we would like to wish all Malaysians a happy National Day. I'm Renee Fong, Malaysia Madani, Tekad Perpaduan Penuhi Harapan. Thank you for watching and have a lovely evening.